Welcome to Loud Leadership Quietly, the podcast where intentional leadership creates bold impact. I'm your host, Michelle Ronin, here to remind you that introversion, neurodivergence, and grace are not obstacles to leadership, they're superpowers. In a world that values volume over value, we're flipping the script. Whether you're navigating leadership as a woman of color, managing mental health, or learning to lead without losing yourself, this space is for you. Here, we embrace authenticity, advocate for wellness, and most importantly, we show up, leading in ways that inspire change and uplift others. So grab your tea, settle in, and let's explore the journey of loud leadership quietly, because we believe in making an impact with intention and purpose. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to Loud Leadership Quietly. If you're back for episode 2, hey, thanks. Today's episode is one that hits really close to home for me because we're diving into the intersection of introversion, neurodivergence, and leadership. So if you've ever felt like you don't quite fit in the mold of what a traditional leader is, then this episode is for you. We're going to talk about how these identities, being introverted, or neurodivergent, or a woman of color, can shape your leadership journey and how it can be impactful, not just for you, but for others around you. So let's start by breaking down the terms. The term introversion or being an introvert is often misunderstood, right? The first thing people think of is that you're shy, you're socially awkward, but it doesn't mean that. I'm a hardcore introvert. And I'll have people say, well, you don't seem like an introvert at all. I mask really well. And we'll talk about that later. If there was an Olympic award for masking, I would have so many gold medals. But I'm not shy. Introverted, yes. Shy, no. Socially awkward? Depends on who you're asking. But introversion or being an introvert does not mean you're either of those. It just means you gain energy from solitude, thoughtful reflection, and you replenish by being alone and having an amazing inner world. Where neurodivergence is another term that's often misunderstood. It includes a range of differences in brain functioning. It's not an actual medical diagnosis of any type, but it really just means you think and process things differently. That's really all it means. So things like ADHD, autism, dyslexia, anxiety, how you function, how your brain functions is just not mainstream. In my opinion, that's a great thing. But that's what neurodivergence means. So introversion and neurodivergence are actually different. And while they might sound like they're the same because there's overlapping qualities, but they're two different things altogether. You can have an extrovert who identifies as being neurodivergent. And you can have an introvert who doesn't identify that at all. So they're not interchangeable in the sense of what they express. But sometimes, a lot of times, they do play together. It's so important to understand that these traits aren't deficits, though. They're unique ways of thinking and processing the world. And let's be honest, let's look at the world right now. I think it's a need of a different way of processing things and thinking to get to different outcomes, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. Society tends to have a very narrow view of what a leader looks like, right? Leaders are often expected to be outgoing, to be loud, always on. But let me tell you, some of the most effective leaders are actually opposite of that. They're thoughtful, empathetic, strategic, And these are all qualities that we can find within introverts, right? Neurodivergent individuals. This is where we excel. So we want to address some of the common misconceptions about introverts and neurodivergent leaders. And one of the biggest myths is that introverts can't be charismatic or influential. That's simply not true. Look at Keanu Reeves. He's a very specific introvert. I throw him up there because I like him a lot. But he has a huge fan base who would say differently when it comes to charisma, right? Ruth Simmons is another person, both known for their quiet, intentional leadership styles, but they make a lasting impact without needing to dominate every room they enter. And let's talk about the strengths. As an introvert or an introverted leader, you bring some incredible qualities to the table. Things such as deep thinking, which allows you to approach problems from different angles. Empathy helps you connect with your team on a meaningful level. Listening skills ensure that everyone's voice is heard. And creative problem solving. And this can lead to innovative solutions that others could potentially overlook. And just to give you a personal story of mine on how to use empathy and just observation has worked for me. So, as I mentioned before, I also have anxiety mixed in with my introverted concoction here. And I'm always, because of my hypervigilance, looking for areas of potential concern, issue, chaos to address it. So working in the field that I work in, which is victim services, and I work with a lot of trauma, which probably has enhanced my anxiety in many different ways. But being a leader in that field allows me not just to be tuned in to my team, but I can also get in front of issues that I pick up due to being observing their behaviors, looking for the nonverbals, things that are not said, to where I can potentially get in front of something that's going on personally or professionally, because I'm taking the time to watch, to monitor, listen, and then we do active problem solving where it's not just, this is not working, you're out of here. No, let's see where we can work together to get to a solution. So that introversion mixed in with that anxiety helps me not just, my alarm systems are always going, always monitoring the system. I'm kind of like an ADT alarm support, but also because I can take a moment and just look to see what's important for other people. Not to say extroverts can't do that. I'm not saying that at all. But some of the biggest extroverts that I've worked with, they're moving so fast and talking so much that they're not taking the time to focus in when you see that happening. So that's just my personal story, or an example where my introversion mixed in with my neurodivergence was helpful. And my team is very appreciative of that. Now they had to learn that I'm not going to be the one in the front all the time, but they know I'm leading. It's just I'm often leading from behind. So how do we lead authentically when confronting to extroverted norms? The key is to lean into your strengths, right? You want to create spaces where you feel comfortable. And some ways to do this is practice setting boundaries to protect your energy. And most importantly, surround yourself with people who value your unique perspective. So for me, I can kind of tell when there's another introvert around. In Zoom meetings or team meetings or in actual face-to-face meetings, we can kind of scope each other out. So you're able to create a kind of a safe space to check in every once in a while. Are you doing okay? How are you doing today? But we also know we don't like small talk, so don't push the issue. But also setting the boundaries. And that boundary can be, you know what? I need to take some time off today because maybe yesterday was a little bit much. Or there have been some really stressful timelines and suspense states going on, and I just need a break from it right now. So a couple hours early leaving the office so you can take off that persona, that could be a setting of a boundary. Or arranging meetings in ways that are best for your functioning. I'm a slow starter in the morning, so I really like to think in the morning. The morning is my think tank. My team is aware of that, so I probably won't arrange meetings until after 11, and they know unless it's an emergency, probably don't schedule or put a meeting on my calendar until after 11, because that time in the morning, I'm thinking, I'm processing, I'm developing, I'm doing things mentally. So that's just another way I set boundaries, because for me to be the most effective leader I can be, I need to operate in a space where that's going to be the most productive for me. So that's just another example on how setting boundaries and allowing yourself to turn yourself on mentally, turn it off mentally, works for you and your team. Now, it could be flop. Some people might be early aggressive risers, like they wake up at 5 in the morning and they want to have all the meetings in the morning, and whatever works for you and the team you're leading. But for me personally, please don't put anything on my calendar before 11, because I'm just going to be staring at you. That could be too productive. So you want to practice setting boundaries, protecting your energy, and surrounding yourself with people who get you, who understand. And they don't have to be other introverts. One of my closest friends is an extrovert, but she knows I might ghost out for a couple days. And that's okay. And representation matters. And I've already spoken about this, but a big piece of the reasoning behind the podcast is understanding the challenges of women of color in leadership roles. So when we talk about representation matters, it's important that we see women of color who are leading in diverse ways. No one knows the exhaustion I feel when I get on these meetings, or I get in the meetings and I'm the only Black female there. Every screen that I'm looking on, every person that I'm talking to or interacting with do not look like me. There's an exhaustion that goes with that, but no one talks about it. And I'm sure there's some people listening right now, they're like, yes, that is exhausting. Because the higher up you go on that scale, the less people start to look like you. And that's an honest statement. So that's why representation matters, because there's been many days where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get a tech job because I am a techie. That's my other life. I'm just going to get a tech job, wear hoodies all day, and just code stuff. I wouldn't have to talk to people. I really wouldn't have to do meetings. I wouldn't have to dress up and get on stages. I can just sit in my hoodie, my pajama bottoms, look at screens and code. Like, that freaking sounds chef's kiss. But I know representation matters. And if I am a leader at work, I need to understand the responsibilities of me being a leader for others who look like me. So we need to show that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to leadership, but we also need to understand your position as a leader sets the bar for others to come behind you. Your position and how you interact as a leader now opens the road for the young ones coming in behind you. So we have to understand that your position is not about just you having a title behind your name and getting paid for that service you provide. You're actually being a goalpost, a wayfinder for people coming after you. So we have to understand that responsibility that comes. And I know people are like, well, I didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for that. I just want the check. Understood, but there's so much more behind it, because little girls are looking towards you. Well, if you can do it, so can I. If you can do it, so can I. So sometimes when you're having a really stressful day, or you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the 6th meeting today, and I'm still not seeing anybody who resembles me, keep going, because you're going to change that narrative for the ones coming behind you. Now, it's always fun when you do get in those meetings and you do see someone who looks like you, and you both make eye contact, and we have this unsaid language, and it's kind of like, hey, there's that recognition automatically. You've never met that person in your life, but there you can tell that they're just as happy to see you as you are to see them. It's like, oh, family. Okay, somebody's got my back. And it's not a situation of someone's got my back if something goes wrong, because you don't know who that person is, but you look alike. You look like me. There's some historical bonding here. So, hey, what's up? Hey. And you kind of already know. Now, is that the same for everybody? No. Sometimes people don't realize their historical bonding, and that's a whole different story. So this is not something that happens all the time, but for the most part, when that does happen, and you know, it's a head nod, right? It's the I see you. So we want to make sure that we are being that representation that's so needed. So as we wrap up today's discussion, remember, leadership is about being true to yourself. You can play the role for so long, but hints of you will come out. You want to make sure that you understand what that impact looks like. Embrace your introversion. I know when I'm being interviewed for positions, or when I have been interviewed for positions, I'll be straight up like, look, I'm introverted. Will I get the job done? Absolutely. Am I going to be meeting people after work for drinks? It's not happening. Am I going to be going to social events? If I'm forced to, if it's being told like you have to go, I'll be there. If it's up to me, it's not happening. Like, I was always like, why do you guys want to hang out after work? I see you all day. I'm going home. They don't understand. I have to take off the mask. It's tiring. They don't understand when I come home, I'm a different person. I'm in my sweats. I'm reading books. I'm working on some creative web design. I'm working on some creative venture. I'm having my inner monologue. That is hilarious, by the way. If I could record my inner monologue, I would be making millions as a comedian, for sure. But yeah, that is a part of who I am. So you want to, again, embrace your introversion, celebrate your neurodivergence, and understand that responsibility of who you are when you step in those rooms, that you are creating space for the ones who come behind you. And know that you don't need to change who you are to be an impactful leader. We just need to create space to allow us to be. So the takeaway here is feel empowered. Own your introversion. Own your neurodivergence. Own your skin. These are unique qualities about yourself that not just have impacts on you, your team, your organization, but people coming behind you. Little girls who look like you coming behind you. So yeah, I know I just put a whole bunch on you in this conversation, but we want to make sure you understand that there is a difference between introversion and neurodivergent. So we want to understand what those misconceptions are. How do they impact your leadership roles? And when you walk into these meetings and when you have these conversations, you might be the only one who looks like you there, but there's so many people behind you watching you as an example so they can someday be where you are at. So, thanks again for being here for episode 2. we're moving, we're grooving, we're getting along. And be sure to check out our next episode as we dive a little bit deeper into challenges of skin color, women of color in leadership. What does that really mean? What that impacts look like? And going a little bit deeper into that representation conversation and how you being where you are has a much bigger role than just that paycheck. So you guys take care and keep leading loudly, quietly. Thank you for joining us on Loud Leadership, Quietly, where we lead with purpose and intention. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your support helps amplify this powerful community. Remember, grace is strength, advocacy is power, and your leadership leaves a lasting impact. So until next time, stay authentic, stay classy, and know that your voice matters, and your leadership creates change.